Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead Daryl Dixon video. So here's my trailer breakdown for episode 2 of season 2, and there's a lot to talk about here. I will say this trailer mostly features a lot of stuff from episode 2, but there is a lot of other footage for some of the other episodes. Like, I've noticed them do that quite a bit with all the spinoffs. Actually, is after episode 1, the trailer it's about episode 2, but there's also stuff from like the other episodes. It's more of a like what to expect for the rest of the season, and then after episode 2, the trailer is more focused on like episode 3 and whatnot, right? So in this one here, we'll talk a lot about what to expect in episode 2, and I'll talk about a lot of the scenes that seems like it makes sense to happen in episode 2, and then yeah, we'll also talk about obviously every single scene in here, which may reference, you know, future episodes. And so yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, and also please be aware that this video will contain spoilers for the episode. I do have to warn you for that, because obviously major spoilers for episode 1. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go do so. I really highly recommend the episode. Honestly, this season looks like it's going to be a really great season. I think the premiere honestly set up the season really well, and judging by a lot of the early reviews, you know, episode 1 wasn't even their favorite episode. There was a lot of talk about episodes 4 and 6. I've heard some references to 3 and episodes 2 as well. And so yeah, you know, I think the premiere, it makes sense. I think the premiere did what it was supposed to do. It set up the story really well, and it's so awesome to have Melissa McBride back as Carol. And so yeah, we got the trailer here for episode 2. So a lot to talk about. So obviously where we saw episode 1 end, Carol and Ash are now flying to France, right? And then for Daryl's story, obviously Daryl and the Mathis team rescued Falou and Emil. So now they're going back to the nest, and that is likely where episode 2 is going to start off. We're going to see Daryl back at the nest, likely talking about Isabelle, about, you know, what to do next and whatnot. And there's going to be something that comes up in terms of what happens with Madame Genet, because they rescued Falou and Emil, and now they're back here. I mean, really at this point here, Madame Genet has no idea where the nest is or where Daryl is, but I think it's possible that maybe she's learned things here and there, and maybe someone followed them there. I have no idea. There is a mysterious character, and I'm going to do a video on this character, because I don't know who she is, but she was actually in this episode, and I think she's in the trailer as well, and I don't know who she is. I don't think any casting came out that teased who the character was, and so I wonder if she's actually a character more connected with some of the stuff that we saw at the very end of the World Beyond scene with Dr. Jenner and the Superwalker and some of what was happening there. And I wonder if she's a connection at all to season 3 at all, because I don't remember any casting information that came out that said anything about this character. So I'm very, very curious, like, who is this character, and what role does the character have this season? But yeah, then we see Isabelle and Daryl. Isabelle sort of talking about, you know, like, everything was going so well, and everything that I've sort of believed and everything that I followed led me to this place, and, you know, things were so good. And Daryl sort of points out, well, maybe things were so good because you really believed in it. And you know, I think that is true. You know, it really had nothing to do with the nest. It's because Isabelle, like, she actually believed that things were going to go good here. And in terms of the story overall for Isabelle, you know, we didn't really see her too much in episode 1. Obviously, we didn't really see Daryl as well. So I think we are going to see a lot more focus on Isabelle for episode 2 and 3 and whatnot. We see her a lot in the trailer, so that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, we see a lot of shots of this ceremony that's supposed to happen for Laurent. We heard a lot of references to that in episode 1, and so I'm guessing it's going to happen around here, where Laurent, I guess, I don't know what's happening here. Is he going to be recognized as, like, you know, the leader of the nest, or like, what's happening here? Because they're mentioning a ceremony here, but I'm not entirely sure why, or like what's going on here overall. There's a lot of stuff here with the nest in general that I don't quite understand yet, but I think they're going to get into that. They're going to explain a lot of that this season, obviously. And I am starting to feel like they are going to connect us a lot to season 3 and why they're going to Spain. I think there is going to be somewhat of a connection there, but I don't know what it is yet. Really cool shot here of, I don't know what this building is here, but it looks absolutely incredible. But if you look on the very left, you see a vehicle and then someone riding a motorcycle. I believe that's actually Carol. I think Daryl and Carol are actually there. So at this point here, like, seeing this scene, Daryl and Carol have reunited. So this is definitely from like later episodes 4, 5, and 6. And judging based off of the end of episode 1, I really don't know when they're going to reunite. Like, do they reunite at the very end of episode 2? I don't see it. Like, maybe it's possible that now that Carol's going to France, that eventually when she gets there, somehow she's going to reunite with Daryl. But I'm just starting to think that, you know, episode 2 for Carol anyway is going to focus a lot on how she gets to France. We're going to see her basically get there. She might go somewhere else first, because they're talking about stopping somewhere first. So we could see some sort of story there. Then eventually she does get to France, and then what happens there. Obviously, they got to focus a lot more on Daryl's story and whatnot, and sort of further Madame Genet's story and all of that. So there's a lot to cover there. And then in episode 3, maybe they reunite then. I know that they're probably going to take their time with it because Daryl and Carol are going to be a big part of season 3, 4, 5, and whatnot, right? Like, you're going to have them together a lot. So they can do that. You know, it's definitely different than The Ones Who Live, where we saw Rick and Michonne reunite at the very end of episode 1, right? So yeah, they're definitely going a different route here with this. But we do see Daryl and Laurent in this car here. So Daryl is driving the vehicle. Laurent is here. I'm assuming Carol's driving the motorcycle, then I think that makes a lot of sense. And so at this point here, Daryl and Carol have already reunited. It makes sense because Daryl looks like he's wounded quite a bit, so a lot has happened at this point. I don't know if Isabelle's gone at this point. I think it's possible. I mean, if we're only having Daryl and Laurent here, I think a lot more could have happened to Isabelle, but we'll have to wait and see. We do see this shot here of the plane, and it hasn't crashed, but there's something wrong with it, it looks like. And so they get out of the plane, and then they see 2 characters here, obviously 2 newer characters. I don't know what is happening here. This doesn't look like it's France, maybe, but I think they stopped somewhere else. And so I think they're most likely there. They run into these 2 newer characters here, and then there's going to be some story that happens with these characters here that I think are probably going to be more like villain characters. There's going to be something else that happens here because obviously they're not in the show at all going further than this, right? So I think they're trying to get some fuel. That's going to be the storyline here is Carol and Ash are going to land here. They're going to try and find some fuel to be able to have the plane ready to be able to get to France. And then there's probably going to be maybe some repairs they have to do to the plane in general. But we see all 4 of the characters here, and it doesn't seem like it's France. And I don't know how much of a story they're going to really do here where the characters are here for long. Like, I don't think Carol's going to be here all season or even like for 2 episodes. I think this is really just going to be an episode 2 thing. I mean, you literally see a shot of one of the characters dying here, and then Carol sort of looks back and reacts to it. So something happens here in the scene, and then at some point I'm guessing they're just going to leave and then eventually get to France. And I don't know if Ash maybe dies here in episode 2, maybe. I mean, I really honestly feel like because of what Carol said to Ash, that he's likely going to survive a little bit longer. I don't see Ash dying in episode 2. I could totally see him being around for quite a bit because the lie that she told to Ash was a pretty big moment of the premiere that I kind of want that moment to be around all season. You know, like once they actually get to France, that's the thing. Like, you want Ash to actually get to France because once he gets there, if Carol doesn't find Sophia, I mean, he's going to be very upset about that and just that whole situation, right? Like, you want to see how a lot of that plays out here. And I feel like because of who Ash is, it makes sense that he'll probably forgive her overall because she found Daryl. So, you know, it was someone else that was really important to her. But I think just, you know, because Carol is using the fact that he lost his son, you know, very early on in the apocalypse, I think that might hurt him a little bit more. And so maybe he reacts really badly. I have no idea. But I think that storyline could be around all season. So I think Ash will be around for a bit, but obviously Carol's going to go her own way for a little bit here. At least it seems like it based off the trailer. We see Carol here looking around in France, and I feel like this is going to be the end of episode 2. Is, you know, her just looking at France. She's finally made it here, and just what next, right? We see some shots here of Isabelle. I think a lot of this is from episode 2 as well. The scene seems really kind of intense at first because Isabelle walks in and then obviously Laurent's not there, so she's freaking out, but it's likely going to be something very, very simple, like he's just out there talking with Daryl or Lo Sang, and so she's a little bit concerned at first, right? But it's really going to be a nothing scene. But this seems like it's probably going to be episode 2 stuff because I think a lot of what's going to happen at the nest in terms of all the peaceful scenes and whatnot are going to be very early on, because I really think after episode 2, it's going to be very chaotic overall, I think, for the nest and whatnot. And then we get this shot right here of Poir and a bunch of soldiers entering this, I don't know what this place is entirely. I'm looking past the soldiers there and you sort of see a fence that's there. And so I'm really wondering if this is connected with the opening sequence where we see Carol and Daryl entering some sort of tunnel. And we know we're going to see bioluminescent walkers, and I think that could happen in the finale. And so we're building to something that seems to be related to the Super Walkers storyline here. And there's something crazy that's about to happen. I don't know what it is, but I think this is connected to that, you know, like just why is Madame Genet creating super walkers, and just some of the mystery there I think could be revealed around episodes 5 and 6. And so I think that's likely what we're seeing here is just a scene from that. We see Laurent here again. I think this is still sort of connected to the same scene. Then we see Daryl here getting captured, and I don't think this is episode 2. Maybe it's the end of episode 2. I could see Daryl getting captured at that point with Isabelle, and then in episode 3 Daryl and Isabelle are at Madame Genet's base, and obviously Lo Sang is there as well. And then there's, you know, that whole story for episode episode 3, but I don't know if they're going to go that fast. And that's the thing too, I will say in terms of a criticism with the story is that's why 6 episodes to me just doesn't work. Like, this is such a big story and we're going through it so fast. Like, honestly, you need to do more episodes, like 8 episodes per season. I know they're filming season 3 right now, and I think they said it was 6 episodes, but like, you got to do 8 episodes. Dead City, they're doing 8 episodes for season 2. Like, you really got to do 8 episodes because this is kind of fast. I've seen some early reviews about that. Like, that was the one criticism, is that this season just constantly feels like it's just going and going and going. And you could see that. I think that season 1 was definitely the setup. And I think if you look at season 1 and 2 overall and you watch it back to back, like, yes, it would be this perfect arc where season 2, which is sort of the second half of the arc, is going to be a lot more intense, a lot more stuff happening. But you got to remember, though, that you're not really releasing this season as like a part 2 to that. People are watching it, you know, episode to episode. And so you're sort of taking it on its own. And so that's why I think you just can't have a lot of stuff happening like crazy. I just think that 6 episodes is too low. You got to do 8 episodes at least. So I imagine that is going to be the criticism this season. Once the season is over, people are going to say, like, it's only 6 episodes, which again is something that a lot of people are saying. The Ones Who Live, and even before the other spinoffs, you know, that was a big criticism. But after The Ones Who Live, that's where people really focused on it. I think if this season you see that same sort of issue, you're going to see a lot of criticism about that. And then I think that people will praise the fact that Dead City has 8 episodes. And then I don't know if Daryl Dixon season 3 is going to, you know, add more episodes or what they're going to do. But I really think they should, because like I said, 6 episodes just isn't enough. But we have some really interesting shots here. And I really like how the coloring of the show overall changes. Like, it's not one consistent color tone. Go to a shot like this where you see Daryl getting captured, and just whatever the color grading is here, it's very different than this shot right here where it looks very gray, right? And maybe it's because of the clouds, it's a very cloudy day, but I do like that contrast overall. I think that it really does sort of freshen up the show, watching it scene to scene or like episode to episode. But yeah, we see something happening here. It looks like Poir has a bunch of soldiers, which is kind of cool. A lot of weapons. And then we see Anna actually leave the car here. And I'm guessing she has a meeting with Madame Genet. She's actually going to play a pretty big role here this season. So I'm excited to see where that's going to go. But then we see this shot right here. And I believe this is connected with Madame Genet. We actually have a shot of Madame Genet and Carol. This was a pretty big reveal here in the trailer. And I think that this is likely not episode 2. This is probably episode, 3 or 4, somewhere around there. And I think this is going to be Madame Genet's backstory. I think we're going to learn a lot of, you know, who she is, how she got so much power, how she became the leader of Poir, because they're looking at this place. And I think that's where the backstory for Madame Genet is going to be happening, because David Isabelle and I think a few others actually talked about that. And so really cool to have Carol and Madame Genet together here. And I don't think at this point Carol and Daryl have reunited, maybe, but I don't think so. So it's kind of interesting because, like, I mean, if Carol sees Daryl at some point, like, is she going to be like, I mean, she's going to go and see him, right? So I don't think at this point she has seen him yet, but I think she'll hear a lot of references to the American. And I think, you know, based off of that, she's going to know that Daryl is somewhere around here. They're trying to find him. And so if I'm with Madame Genet and Poir, eventually I'm going to get to Daryl, right? So I think that's sort of her motivation here overall. And Madame Genet says a lot, you know, in the trailer here, no more lies. Like, I want to know more about you, sort of thing. And I think Carol definitely is, you know, lying about who she is overall, which is, I would say, really interesting. I think that if Madame Genet finds Ash, because I'm assuming that storyline with Carol and Ash is going to be around all season. I think that if Ash is maybe just sort of staying where the plane is or something like that, you know, just looking after it, and Carol goes into France a lot more to go and find Daryl, and then she'll come back, sort of thing. I think that Madame Genet or Poir could find out about that, and then that's where Ash comes back into the story here, and Madame Genet finds out a lot more about Carol, and so maybe, you know, she brings up Sophia, this and that. I think that'd be really crazy. But yeah, then we see a lot of shots here of Poir turning, I guess, walkers or people into some of the super walkers, and that is absolutely insane. I mean, seeing the super walkers here, this is all different from a lot of the other scenes that we've seen for season 2. So this is brand new footage here of super walkers in a totally unrelated scene. I wonder if they're just creating super walkers randomly throughout France. Like, that could be something they're actually doing, is like, you know what, we know the nest and where Daryl and all of them are staying is somewhere around here, so we're just going to create a bunch of super walkers around and yeah, just cause a lot of chaos. But then we see Carol here, she's on a horse, and it's actually, I think, daytime, just based off of the light in the background there, unless that's from a spotlight or something, because I swear that Carol rides the horse around at nighttime. But yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I think it could be a spotlight, because you cut to the next scene here and it looks like like it literally is related, but I don't know, because Carol's in a tunnel here, and it's just so weird that immediately she's out of the tunnel right after this. It doesn't look like it's the same scene, so I wonder if things were sort of just edited very well here. But yeah, Carol runs into Poir, so I'm assuming that she's trying to get away to warn Daryl about something or whatever, and yeah, I'm not sure where things are going to go here. Yeah, I think what's going to happen is they're going to catch Carol here. I think Madame Genet is going to order everyone to die, basically, because we saw a lot of that in previous trailers where she kills a bunch of people. Carol's actually, I think, in that group, but she does survive, and they turn everyone into super walkers, and so Carol obviously somehow survives, somehow gets away, so I think that's what's happening here, but I'm not sure. And then we get this scene here, which I think is from the finale of the bioluminescent walker, which just looks absolutely incredible. I can't even believe they actually did this. Like, every season of every show, you know, they're always changing up how the walkers look overall, and obviously I think lately they've been really changing up how the walkers sort of look or operate in general, because we have super walkers and burners and whatnot. But yeah, bioluminescent walkers, like, why do these walkers exist? What happened to them? Really cool shot here of Daryl. He has his crossbow, so at this point I'm assuming he's already reunited with Carol. We see Cadron here in this shot, so I do wonder if this is going to be a scene where Poir is attacking them, but we actually have Cadron and Daryl together fighting back. I think that'd be absolutely really cool. But yeah, a lot of stuff happening here at the nest, and again, I think this is likely episode 2 here, because we see Laurent and Isabelle really concerned. Falou is here. Daryl just rescued Falou from Madame Genet, right? It looks like a lot of the ceremony stuff is happening, so this could be towards the end of episode 2. But then, yeah, we see this shot here of, I guess, this cannon here that they're going to use to, you know, blow up the doors here of the nest, and so they're able to actually get inside the nest. And yeah, we see the shot here of Madame Genet. I was talking about this earlier. Like, I think this is related to the scene where she orders her soldiers to kill everybody so that she can create super walkers. And yeah, this is probably going to be like, what, episode 4 or 5? Something like that anyways. A really cool shot here of Ash actually running away from some of the walkers. These could be burners. Honestly, they kind of look like normal walkers, but I guess some of them could be burners because they do exist, obviously, in France. And I think this is France. This is probably later on. I think this is going to be like episodes 5 or 6, because I do think that, again, because Carol told Ash that crazy lie about Sophia, I think that that's going to be something that really is there all season. It's going to be something that a lot of us are going to be really looking forward to all season. Like, oh, I can't wait for Ash to find out that Carol lied about that, right? We see a shot here of Lo Sang, and this is probably, I mean, I'm guessing from episode 2 as well. Another shot here of Daryl. This is during the day, and I think this is at the nest, and so maybe this is episode 2 as well, when Poir attacks the nest, because I'm assuming that's going to happen in episode 2. Another shot here of this mysterious character, and it looks like she is with Poir, and again, I really think she is working with Poir. So there's something here, I think, with Madame Genet. There's a connection here, and there's something with Laurent. Like, there's a mystery here that I think they're really going to get into here throughout the season. And honestly, I'm really happy that there's a lot to the season that we don't know, because personally for me, you know, going into episode 1, it felt like I understood everything, basically, because I kind of knew overall where this season was going. You know, we've sort of analyzed everything so much, and so seeing this, you know, episode 1 revealed so many things that I just really never saw coming, and we're seeing a lot of mysterious characters here this season, and, you know, that's really cool. But yeah, just a really incredible trailer. There's a lot of scenes here that I'm not really referencing because it's just kind of, you know, random shots here and there. A lot of stuff that we've talked about overall, but I do think a lot of this trailer here is for episode 2 specifically, but obviously there's a lot of footage here from like later episodes too. So yeah, this looks absolutely incredible. I will be doing videos later on talking about the mysterious character, talking about Carol and what she lied about to Ash, you know, about Sophia's death. There's a lot to talk about here. So yeah, I'm really hyped for the season being back. Post your predictions for episode 2. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.